Don't mess with Sergeant Slaughter. He's as strong as they come. I've seen him take on 100 cobras and set them on the run.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle, and welcome to the last part of main character me. It's been one hell of a ride.
And I bet nobody saw OSW review coming.
Today we'll be talking about the G.I. Joe character, starting as always with the file card.
And the first thing about the first file card to notice is that his real name is classified as top secret.
It's Robert Remus.
Now, to be fair, when wrestlers act as a persona, they tend to not go by their real names either. I mean, it would be a cruel parent who named their child Erwin R. when their last name is Shyster. So having his real name be classified is like the inception of keeping up kayfabe.
And that's the only wrestling reference you'll get.
Because the file cards never mention he's a wrestler or anything wrestling related, really. The first card starts off kinda passive-aggressively, as it says just about every member of the Joe team is qualified as a drill instructor.
I'm kinda getting a why are you even here vibe.
And technically it's not wrong. Even if you have to be a sergeant to be a drill instructor, there are still 68 sergeants of various sorts in the Joe team.
Yes, I counted. No, I have no life.
Also, the card makes fun of his looks. He's got a bullet head and a Smokey the Bear hat, even though that is a real military item. The card does mention what a tough SOB he has to be if he's even better than all the other Joes at drill instructing, and nobody wants to cross him. It ends with Jarhead saying he could blow a month of pay in one night in Thule, Greenland, but that's impossible.
Yeah, the implication here is that he'd spend all his money on hookers and booze, which is a bold implied statement to make on a children's toys file card.
The reason it's impossible to spend all your money there is because the town of Thule, now called Quannack, has a population of about 650 people and was created by the forced relocation of indigenous people to get them away from the Thule US Air Force Base in Greenland, so interactions like the ones heavily hinted at on the card wouldn't happen.
So yeah, reading between the lines, or hell, sometimes just the lines of the first file card, I get an undertone of resentment that they had to include Slaughter as a Joe.
I also suspect Hasbro kindly told the file card writer, who I assume was Larry Hama, to cut that crap out for the Triple T version of the card, which, even though it came out in the same year, was vastly different.
It simply states that he's a master of drill training and the extremist in rough and tumble fun.
His favorite training is walking on the backs of his trainees while they do one-finger push-ups and while he verbally abuses them. If you've seen Arlie Emery, you know what that means. The card goes on to state that they say he cleans his teeth with barbed wire and shaves with a blowtorch. Everything is a battle to him. Also, he sometimes drives through enemy fortresses rather than blow them up because it's more fun that way. But the Triple T doesn't have any armor to protect the driver, so if he goes through a wall, wouldn't it crush him?
Oh, there I go, adding that pesky logic to the proceedings again.
The really interesting things about this card are in the foreign file card fun department, so we'll go over them here. In Holland and Belgium, he wasn't called Sergeant Slaughter, but he was rather called Sergeant Driller.
So, Drill Sergeant Driller.
I suppose they could have gone with the word slachter, which is a Dutch word, but it means butcher, so I can see why they changed it. In France and also Belgium again, because we're a bilingual country, he's called slaughter, or slaughter, which is just slaughter with the G and the H cut out. Google lies to me and claims it means slipping, but there's no such word in the French language.
Yeah, I checked online and physical dictionaries, and it wasn't in there, so they just made up a word.
Where things get really weird is in the UK. You'd expect him to just be called Slaughter, but he wasn't. No, instead, he was Sergeant Slammer. Yes, Slammer.
And why is that?
For the same reason the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were called the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles over there. Like the word ninja, the word slaughter was considered far too violent for the delicate brains of children. Yeah, some probably well-paid committee decided such things.
While painting their children's bedrooms with lead paint, no doubt.
I should also point out that Slammer, and Driller for that matter, sound vaguely sexual. Well, when you're 12 anyway.
Or in your 40s.
Anyway, the next file card, the Warthog one, still retains some of the drill instructor text from the second one, but naturally focuses more on the Warthog, saying he's the best at getting the most of it and breaking it in. He does this by beating the hell out of it.
Metaphorically, I hope.
That brings us to the last file card for the What Bar Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, I'm changing the name. It's easier to say that way.
The card still calls him the Joe's best drill instructor, but naturally focuses on him being the leader of his new task force, the What Bars, giving him full authority to deploy the most heavy artillery. Under his command, the Bars have never lost a confrontation, even though they constantly fight Cobra.
And those were the file cards. They got a bit weird.
Though the funniest part is that the only place you'll find a wrestling reference is on the Triple T box where it's called the Tag Team Terminator.
So let's move on to other media.
As far as the comic goes, mine can be fairly brief. He only appeared in 4 issues. He debuted in issue 48, called Slaughter no less, where he reported to the pit. Unfortunately, at the same time, Zartan was on the loose there, so a couple of Joes thought he was an infiltrator and promptly got their asses handed to them. He assisted in the capture of Zartan by punching him when he was disguised as Gung-Ho, figuring there was a 50-50 shot of getting the right one. The only other thing of note he does is chase after Zartan as he escapes again, using the Havoc because I guess he just loves seats that offer no protection whatsoever, and ends up battling the Thunder Machine, but the bad guys get away.
What a shock!
This is also the only time we see him in his figure's outfit, more or less. He's just in a generic uniform otherwise. Also note that the Triple T never appears in the comic.
And that was the Sarge in the comics.
I'm guessing this was a thing where Larry Hama said fine, we'll promote the figure and make him look good for a couple of issues, but then he can bugger off, since he didn't appear again. Of course, where Hasbro took full advantage of having a real-life Joe was with the commercials and the cartoon. He promoted his own mail-in figure.
So we're celebrating by giving away Sergeant Slaughter action figures, but you can't buy them in stores. You've got to earn them. Here's how.
And would later introduce and partially narrate commercials for other G.I. Joe toys.
Cobra can run, but he can't hide. The G.I.Joe Crusader's hot on his trail.
And the big showcase for the Sarge was of course the cartoon series.
He was introduced in the Season 2 opening miniseries, Arise Serpentor Arise, called in by Hawk to get the Joes back in shape since they had become a little too comfortable.
A couple of notes on his introduction.
For some reason, he's got black hair in the cartoon, even though the toys, and more importantly the man, had brown hair. Maybe they did this to avoid confusion with Wild Bill, who also had a hat and sunglasses and brown hair and a mustache, but I don't know.
Also, his introduction was metal.
He rode in as the Joes were under siege and totally demolished a bunch of battle android troopers bare-handed, or at most using his baton. It should be noted that the Bats had been pretty much unstoppable up until that point. His other major contribution in the story is keeping Cobra from getting Sun Tzu's DNA to create Serpentor, and he fought the Emperor later to a no contest because of outside interference.
Note that he never uses any wrestling moves.
He appears in 5 regular episodes of Season 2, the most notable being G.I. Joe and the Golden Fleece, where he and some of the Joes travel back in time, and he's mistaken for Hercules, which must have pissed off Hercules Hernandez. Oh yeah, there was time travel.
It was the cartoon, just go with it.
He had a starring role in G.I. Joe the movie, where his main task is to rehabilitate Falcon. Well, help him on his hero's journey, really. And he has a Class 1 slobber knocker with Nemesis Enforcer, where he actually does use some wrestling moves, like a jackknife powerbomb and elbow drops. He is one of the few voice actors, along Chris Latta, who stayed in their roles when the cartoon rights went to Deke for Season 3. He had a starring role in the opening miniseries, Operation Dragonfire, not just as the leader of the What Bars, but as the de facto leader of the entire Joe team.
Yeah, the Deke series got weird when it came to the Joe's leadership.
Sometimes it was Sarge, sometimes it was Duke, or Hawk, or Captain Gridiron, depending on what toys they wanted to promote. Outside of Operation Dragonfire, he appears with voice lines in 6 more episodes. Now, the miniseries is from '89, but the Deke Season 1 was aired from September 1990. I'm assuming he recorded lines for the regular season before his deal with Hasbro was up, as he was in the WWF as a heel by SummerSlam, which was at the end of August. His last appearance was in An Officer and a Viperman, after which we can assume he was quietly dropped from the series because, you know...
You should be saluted! You Iraqi flag!
The only bit of trivia from the Deke series that I have is that they gave the Sarge a sister, though she had no speaking lines. She appeared in the episode Pigskin Commandos, where the Joes and Cobra have a football game using tanks.
Again, just go with it.
And the Sarge was captured and used as a prize. And that was Sergeant Slaughter, the G.I. Joe character.
And that's also it for main character May.
We looked at the figures, the vehicles, the wrestler, and the Joe. We even had OSW review on. How unbelievably cool was that? It was one hell of a month. And I hope you enjoyed this thorough look at Sergeant Slaughter.
Next year, I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking it's gonna be a bad guy. Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing?
Don't mess with Sergeant Slaughter. He's as strong as they come. I've seen him take on 100 cobras and set them on the run.
Oh, quickly, one more thing I forgot to mention. On the Belgian file card, they do refer to him as a wrestling champion from the United States. So we did get an official connection to the wrestling persona. And that really is it. I'll see you next time, and remember, a winner is you.